It was a dark and stormy night as Jake and his girlfriend, Emma, arrived at the infamous haunted hotel room in Cuba. This was supposed to be a romantic getaway, but little did they know, it would turn into a horrifying experience. As they checked into their room, the receptionist warned them about the room's dark history. "Legend has it," he said, "that every person who spends a night in this room encounters paranormal activities." "Oh, come on," Jake scoffed, not believing in ghosts. "It's just a silly superstition." Emma, on the other hand, felt a chill run down her spine. "Maybe we should have picked a different hotel, Jake. This place feels eerie." Ignoring her concerns, Jake smirked and said, "It's all in your imagination, babe. Let's enjoy our stay." Little did they know, their night was about to take a terrifying turn. As they settled into bed, strange noises echoed through the room. The sound of footsteps grew louder and louder, causing Emma's heart to race. Terrified, she grabbed Jake's arm and whispered, "Do you hear that?" "Probably just the wind," Jake shrugged, trying to dismiss her fears. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, trapping them inside. Panic washed over them as they frantically tried to open it. "What's happening?" Emma cried in fear. "This isn't normal." Jake's confident demeanor began to waver as he realized something supernatural was occurring. "Okay, maybe there's something going on." As they stood frozen with fear, the curtains started to sway violently, as if someone was standing behind them. And then, a whisper echoed through the room. "Get out. Get out while you still can." Emma's eyes widened with terror. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah, sounds like a reasonable suggestion," Jake replied, his bravado crumbling quickly. "Let's get out of here." They tried the door once again, and this time it swung open easily. Relieved, they ran down the hallway, desperate to escape the horrors they had just witnessed. But as they reached the elevator, they were met with another surprise. The ghostly apparition of a woman in a white gown emerged, blocking their only route to safety. The ghostly woman glared at them with hollow eyes, her voice dripping with malice. "You cannot escape. This is my domain." The couple was trapped, their last shred of hope extinguished. They looked at each other, their faces pale with terror. Emma's voice quivered as she whispered, "What do we do now?" Suddenly, an elderly janitor appeared from around the corner, pushing his cleaning cart. "Don't worry, young folks. I've dealt with this before." "Who are you?" Jake asked frantically, his voice filled with desperation. The janitor chuckled. "They call me Old Joe. Been working at this hotel for 50 years. Seen my fair share of ghostly encounters. Can you help us?" Emma pleaded, clinging to a glimmer of hope. Old Joe nodded, a twinkle in his eye. "I reckon I can. Follow me." Jake and Emma followed him down the hallway, their nerves frayed but newfound hope rekindled. Old Joe led them to the hotel's basement, a dimly lit space filled with forgotten relics and haunting echoes. "What are we doing down here?" Jake asked, his voice filled with apprehension. Old Joe smiled, revealing a single missing tooth. "Ghosts don't like competition, so we're gonna give Em some." Confused, Emma looked at him. "What do you mean?" The janitor pulled out a box filled with vintage music records, his hands slightly trembling. "We're gonna have ourselves a good old-fashioned ghost dance-off." Both Jake and Emma exchanged bewildered glances, wondering if Old Joe had finally lost his mind. "I'm sorry, what?" Jake said, unable to comprehend the situation. Old Joe chuckled. "You see, these spirits have been wreaking havoc because they're bored. They crave entertainment. And what better way to entertain them than with a dance competition?" Emma's eyes widened, her fear momentarily forgotten. "You mean we have to dance with the ghosts?" "That's right, young lady," Old Joe exclaimed. "And if we impress them, they might just leave us alone. With their options limited, Jake and Emma reluctantly agreed to participate in the ghostly dance-off. Old Joe placed the first record on a gramophone, a haunting melody filling the basement. As the music played, ethereal figures emerged, swaying to the rhythm. Jake and Emma hesitantly followed suit. They mimicked the dance moves of the spirits, their bodies moving in synchrony with the supernatural beings. And to their surprise, the ghosts appeared delighted by their efforts. They clapped their opaque hands, their faces showing signs of joy. As the night went on, they danced with more vigor, getting lost in the rhythm. Step by step, they earned the approval of the spectral audience. And then, finally, the last song played. Jake and Emma poured their hearts out on the dance floor, giving everything they had. The ghosts erupted in applause, their ethereal forms dissipating into thin air, leaving behind an eerie silence. Staring at each other in disbelief, Jake and Emma realized the room was finally empty. Exhausted and overwhelmed, the couple sank to the basement floor, their chests heaving with exhilaration and relief. Old Joe patted them on the back, a proud smile on his face. "Well done, folks. You danced those ghosts right outta here." Emma wiped away a tear, grateful to be alive. "Thank you, Old Joe. We wouldn't have made it without you." "No problem, kiddos," Old Joe replied. "It's what I'm here for. Now, let's get you to a room that won't summon any more spirits." As they made their way back upstairs, Jake couldn't help but ask Old Joe one final question. "Why did dancing work?" The old janitor winked mischievously. "Well, everyone knows ghosts have two left feet. Dancing is their kryptonite." Chuckling, Jake and Emma couldn't argue with that logic. As they settled into their new room, they knew their haunted adventure was finally over. The next morning, as they prepared to leave the hotel, they bumped into the receptionist who had warned them the previous day. He looked at them curiously and asked, "Did you survive the night in the haunted room?" Grinning, Emma replied, "Thanks to Old Joe, we did. Turns out, all it took was a good old-fashioned dance-off." The receptionist's eyes widened in surprise. "Old Joe, huh? He's been dead for 10 years. Jake and Emma exchanged stunned glances, their hearts filled with disbelief. Had they truly encountered the spirit of Old Joe? Shaking off their shock, they bid their farewells to the receptionist and headed out of the hotel. The sun was shining brightly, and a sense of relief washed over them. On their way back, Jake turned to Emma and said, "Well, that was one hell of a vacation, huh?" Emma chuckled, intertwining her fingers with Jake's. "That it was. But I don't think we'll ever forget the haunted hotel or Old Joe." They both laughed, grateful for the unforgettable experience they had shared. From that day on, whenever they encountered a creepy situation, they knew they could face it together, armed with their new, unlikely weapon, the power of dance. As for Old Joe, his spirit continued to roam the hotel, content in the knowledge that he had helped another couple survive the haunted room. And as the years went by, the legend of the haunted hotel room in Cuba grew, with whispers of a janitor who could dance the ghosts away. Guests who dared enter the room knew that if they ever encountered the terrifying apparition, they simply needed to reach for the nearest pair of dancing shoes. And so, the haunted hotel room in Cuba became known not only for its supernatural horrors but also for the power of dance, to banish the ghosts that resided within. The memory of Jake, Emma, and Old Joe lived on, forever entwined with the legends and lore of the haunted hotel.